Welcome to Retire Right Washington. The team at the Retirement Solution has been helping families plan for a successful retirement. The Retirement Solution helps you learn about strategies for creating income in retirement, managing your wealth, and minimizing taxes. Welcome to Retire Right Washington.
There are a lot of things we protect in our life, but do you have a plan to help protect your retirement income? On today's show, we'll explain why you might want to consider it so you can enjoy your ideal retirement. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Mozak alongside financial planners with the Retirement Solution, Tom Black and Matt Perrone. And we're going to talk about retirement income today, and we'll look at also some possible blind spots you could have in your retirement plan. And of course, as always, we'll answer your biggest retirement questions. Okay, so we're back on the show today, and I want to kick things off with a question.
Okay.
Do the two of you happen to know what this is?
Oh, I absolutely know what that is.
You know what this is, Tom?
Absolutely.
I've heard of them, but I've never
I am
seen
old
them,
enough
but-
to remember my father using those when he'd go to work every day. And he literally put pins in the pocket. And right there like that. He'd have his pins. He'd come home from work, and it would come out, and it'd go back on the counter. Absolutely remember the old pocket protectors. Used to think those looked pretty cool in the day.
I don't know about cool, but talk about utilitarian, right?
Yes.
I don't know if back in the day pens were not as, good, or if we just really
safe.
liked keeping our shirts white. But this apparently was the ticket to help out with that, pocket protectors. And when you think about a pocket protector, you just think in general about the things we protect in life. If our kids or grandkids are outside on the bikes, we put a helmet on. We're all putting on that seat belt.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, we've got smoke detectors in our homes to protect against fire. I've got a case on my cell phone, okay? Because I'm clumsy. And it's true. We put in all of these protections. I wonder, though, when it comes to something as important as our income in retirement, is there a way to start putting some protections in place around that?
Absolutely. I think one of the first things that Matt and I look at when we talk to people as we get organized is we're looking at how do we put money in different categories. And one of those categories is going to be protected. I think people probably know this innately, but they've never probably thought about it. There are three aspects to money, and you can have any two you want. And those three aspects would be liquidity, protection, and income, or growth, I should say, really is growth. And you can have any of those two that you want, but you can never get all three. And so two of those might be that protected income, that protection, and maybe some guarantees on that. And that certainly has a place in your retirement as you are getting organized so that you have some income you can rely on 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we back up just a half step, Matt, and we talk about what exactly do we mean when we're discussing protected income. It sounds like we need it, at least some of it. What does that typically look like?
Yeah, so it's a good idea to step back, like you said. The idea is, we've said this on the show before, there's going to come a day where you get the last paycheck that you're ever going to get. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense to retire and not know where the next piece of income is going to come from. And I love this analogy of protection. You mentioned a smoke detector earlier. There could be times where, or I should actually say it this way, most of the time your house isn't on fire, but you have them so that when the one time it is, or the two times it is, hopefully never more, it doesn't destroy your life. And when we talk about protected income, it's that idea that if the market goes south, or if some crazy event happens in the world, or the government does something crazy, you know that your income is going to come from somewhere that isn't affected by those things. That's what we mean when we say protected income. The last phone call I ever want to give to any client is, hey, the market went down 30% and I need you to spend 30% less. That would be a horrible phone call to make.
It sure would. Or that you've greatly impacted the type of lifestyle you can have in retirement. And Tom, I'll ask you, if it's necessary, if it's important, how do we know what kind is right for us?
Well, again, there are a lot of different ones. And it can get really easy to fixate on a particular product that is the solution for everyone. And that just isn't true. I think that's the importance of being able to create these individual plans that we do for our clients, is to look at which one of these types of protected solutions is perfect or for them, which may not be true for the next client that I work with. And so we really want to look at our entire inventory of what's out there. But if we start talking about, well, what are the features of something like that, we're really talking about something that potentially has the ability to allow the clients to see some growth. I always use the example everyone's really comfortable with is a CD kind of an idea where we see some upside growth, but we don't have to worry about losing the investment.
Yeah.
And it can be there for us after some growth after a few years. And there's different versions of that kind of an investment that we want to look at and see what fits.
What our clients have told us that they love about working with us is we walk them through all the different options that are out there. We don't care, or we're not beholden to one different specific thing. It's, hey, here's all these different options. Here's pros and cons. What do you think you like best?
So protected income, if I'm tracking with you, it sounds like Social Security might be a form, am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay, but it can't just end there.
No.
And then I think about pensions, but really pensions are going by the wayside, aren't they?
Like less than, what did we say earlier, maybe less than 10% of people, it feels like, have pensions anymore. And so yeah, those aren't going to be there. So you almost have to create it yourself. And you can do that. There are certainly things out there that we can help clients create. They're going to give them that kind of a situation.
Okay, so protected income, clearly it's important. We want to make sure that we have at least something in our plan that represents that protected portion, but it also sounds like it's so important to work with a trusted planner to find the right solution. So we'll continue this conversation. Really important to have protected income, but do you know what kind is right for you? We're going to discuss that and get into the details. Plus, we'll take a look at possible blind spots in your retirement. What could those be? Stay with us.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
Today we've been talking about the importance of protected income. So what is that? Well, it's having your money in a place, in a vehicle, in some type of an instrument where you have less risk. And it's a huge fear, running out of money. We talk about this on the show. Nobody wants to run out of money or income in retirement. So I want to talk about how people can get that type of protection to up the confidence level that they have going into retirement, right? Just making sure that they feel like, okay, I can step away from work and feel pretty darn good about that.
Yeah, so what we do to help take care of that, and I'm sorry, Tom, if I'm already stealing your thunder here, is as we walk our clients through the planning process, when they sit down with us, one of the things we'll do is help them see that different amounts of monies need to go into different buckets, is what we call them.
Very technical term.
Extremely technical, yes. NASA certified term. And basically the idea is each bucket is meant for a different period of time in their life. And the sooner that period of time is, maybe the first 1 to 5 years or so, is typically a very conservative investment. And the longer term it is, if it's meant for 20 years from now, hey, we're not too worried about protecting that because usually the stock market will give you everything you need there. And that's the general approach that we take to saying, here's what you need to protect, here's what you can afford to keep risking and growing.
Okay, that's a really good visual for me with the buckets and the ones you have to draw upon earlier. You need to be paying closer attention to those. Okay, so as we think about perhaps that first bucket, Tom, what should we be thinking about regarding taxes and our protected income? Well,
there's two different questions there. Let's start with what kind of things will we looking at? We definitely want liquidity, as Matt was talking about. And taxes, though, is something that we want to overlay in the entirety of the plan, in all of the buckets as we're looking at them, because we want to make sure that we're not paying too much in taxes today and overpaying later or underpaying later as a result of a decision we made today. So a lot of times I like to look at these when we're creating that first bucket, we call it a bucket A. Are we going to be doing some Roth conversions? Do we want some liquidity in that first bucket? So we can do some of those Roth conversions if it makes sense. because of course every situation is different. We want to make sure that we're following the tax rules for that individual and their overall situation. But you definitely want to be working on some tax planning as you're going into retirement and looking at where we want to be 5, 10, 15 years from now with your investments.
Yeah, to Tom's point there, and to further answer the question, most people have different types of money when they come to us. They'll have pre-tax, after-tax, or brokerage account type funds. And where you layer those in your plan will have huge tax consequences. So having a strategy behind why you put one type of money in the early buckets versus later, very important.
Okay, so to me, that does not sound like something a layperson could just take a crack at. And this illustrates the need for a plan. I want to go into that planning, that comprehensive planning. Can you talk, Matt, about the specifics around what goes in specifically to that comprehensive plan at the Retirement Solution? Oh,
absolutely. So we'll start typically with income. That's a whole different segment. But once we know the amount that's needed, that sort of helps us backfill how much money is needed at certain points in time. For example, maybe in the early years, somebody needs more money because they're not on Social Security yet. That means that first bucket may be pretty heavy. And we're looking for things there. Tom's mentioned in the past, usually any investment can give you one of three things, either safety, liquidity, or growth. And no one investment can give you all three of those. In that early bucket, we're usually looking for safety and liquidity. Growth isn't too much of a concern because the later buckets will give us that. So we'll be looking for things that just say, hey, Megan, you need your first paycheck for the first few months and first few years of retirement. Let's have this that feeds you that. And then as you go on later in the buckets, there can be other things that have grown. And once the first bucket runs out it comes. Okay, so that plan starts with income, which you've outlined. Let's talk about the other components though, right? I know taxes, legacy. Walk us through what else is covered in your comprehensive plan. Yeah, you mentioned with tax planning, legacy comes into play if people want it. It's funny, we do meet with folks that say, I don't want to leave anything to my kids. And I have other folks that say, we want to leave a bunch to them. Great, there's no right answer there. But we're looking at other things too, like different phases of life that might be needed to be planned for. Typically people will spend more early on as opposed to later. What else comes up, Tom?
Well, I think especially when you think of legacy, when I'm meeting with someone and we're saying, hey, good news, and as we've created your plan and we've talked about your income, it looks like you're going to have so much money left over at the end of your life that you're never going to spend based on your current spending. Let's talk about what we want to do with that. Are we giving it to the kids? Are we giving it to a charity? Because depending on how we're going to do that, it's going to determine what kind of assets we want to leave behind. I want to make sure that if you have a desire to leave money to a charity, that we're going to leave them some IRA money, because you're never going to pay the taxes and the charity's never going to pay the taxes on that money. On the other hand, if we're leaving it to the kids, maybe we want to make sure we're leaving them Roth money. And so that legacy planning conversation is actually way more in depth than what people realize. I think Matt and I have talked about this before. The easiest plan we ever create is one where you spend it all.
Yes.
It's much more difficult.
Matt talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Bouncing the check.
The last one. The ones that are really difficult are when we start talking about you have some money you're never going to spend. Congratulations. Now we've got a lot of decisions to make. When do we give it to the kids? How do we give it to the kids? And I'm a big advocate of let's give it to the kids while they need it. Let's not wait until they're 60 years old and they no longer need the money. Or the other one, and I do this personally with my kids, let's go on a trip. I'd rather leave them some memories than leave them $5,000 more.
Wow, that's well said, and maybe a perspective that a lot of people aren't thinking about, that you're able to share with them as that trusted partner on this retirement journey. There's so much to consider that means we have more to talk about, right? Okay, we're going to continue talking, and up next, could there be some blind spots in your retirement plan? Well, there's a chance that there are, and we're going to take a look. We'll tell you what you should know. That's when we come back.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your health care is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
Checking those pesky blind spots while you're driving, that's always a good idea, but what about the blind spots that you might have in your retirement? Those might be even more serious. Tom?
Thanks, Megan. So we're going to talk a little bit right now about blind spots that we have in our retirement. And whenever I think of blind spots, I think of a couple that I worked with. Wade and Mary were clients that I had known prior to me even working in the financial world. We'd been friends for many years, and when we created their income plan, Wade, as we were finishing, turned to me and said, I think this is all great, but what I need the most from you, Tom, is I need to know that you're going to take care of Mary. That no matter what happens to me, she's going to be okay. And I said, no problem. I thought to myself, as he was telling me this, I thought to myself, no chance you're going to have any problems. Mary, I'm not sure she's going to make it, but you're going to be fine. And so as we worked through their situation, it wasn't 18 months later that I received that phone call from Mary that Wade had passed. And that was certainly unexpected. And it's one of those areas that we think of when we look at a list, and one of those lists is unexpected death or catastrophic illness. And as she and I talked through that situation, we realized that there were also some problems now that we didn't have before. When both of them are alive, their tax situation was pretty good, but now her tax situation was going to be different. And in fact, her taxes were likely going to go up now that it was just her and she no longer was filing as a household, but as a single individual. And so we needed to rework her plan. We also wanted to make sure that she was going to be taken care of for long term. And mostly, though, we wanted to make sure her income stayed in place so that she was able to be okay in her retirement. And I think it was maybe 2 years later, after Wade had passed, she called me and she said, Tom, I almost sold the house. And I said, oh, really? She said, I was thinking about it, and I called a realtor, and I took that first picture off the wall, and I sat down the stairs and cried. She said, I can't sell the house. I said, no problem. Remember, we planned for this when we created your updated plan, and we took into consideration that income and making sure you're going to be okay. And we also looked at where you're going to be long term. So you're going to be fine. You can stay in the house. And things went on normal for the next couple of years. It was another 2 more years, and Mary called back and said, hey, Tom, I did sell the house. I'm good. I'm moving into a smaller home that's going to be easier for me to take care of, and it's going to provide me the opportunity to have someone come in and take care of me later on as I need. And I said, great, let's redo your plan. Let's make sure that you're still in good shape now that we've made some adjustments, we've had some other changes, and we're able to work through that. Now, I should say that when I first met with Wade and Mary, we looked at that possibility of one of them passing early. We always do this with clients. We want to make sure that we're looking at these kinds of known blind spots that you might not be taking into consideration. That's probably the biggest one that we want to make sure of because it does affect taxes and some of the rest. More recently now, we're having to look at inflation as we think about these situations and looking at how will inflation affect your retirement over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years into the future, because that now is more of a thing than it used to be. And I think it's going to continue to be with us. I don't think we're going to see the 80s come back. I remember those days. But I think we're going to see some inflation that we got to deal with. And I think we're always going to have that market issues that are out there. But if we're planned appropriately and we are really sticking to that income plan that we've created together, then that stock market risk that's out there isn't going to be the risk that we thought it was going to, that could be otherwise. So blind spots are there. I think the important thing is working with someone on our team that can help you to address the ones you're not even thinking of yet. You may have thought of the big ones, but we want to make sure all of those are taken care of. So good thing to be thinking about. Back to you, Megan.
Thanks, Tom. Up next, answers to your retirement questions straight ahead. Stay tuned.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
And we're back with our Q&A segment, your questions, and guess who answers them? These guys right here. Okay, and they're always up for this challenge, and so we want to get right to it because, Tom, Matt, we have a lot of questions for you. All right, we're going to start today with you, Matt, and the question comes to us from Scott, who's in Seattle. He says this: we have a small mortgage on our home. Should we take the money from our IRA to pay it off now, or just pay it off over the next 6 years?
Good one to start with. I'm sure it will come as no surprise, Megan, that I'll start with, it depends. But what I would tell Scott is that this is a very common question, number one. If that situation is a lot like I've seen recently, where that small mortgage relatively has been refinanced before interest rates went up, typically I'll lean towards just let it be. You know, some people were able to refinance down to 2.5% mortgages. And that'll win in most situations when you're talking about taking money out of an IRA and paying 15, 20, 25% taxes. I'm usually pretty tempted to let that go. But sometimes there are situations where a mortgage payment is for a rental property or for something else where we might say, yeah, let's just go ahead and get rid of that because it'll simplify your life. But more often than not, I lean towards just letting it be. Okay, and I know that that mortgage question comes up for you all quite a bit. It does. Right? And it probably does depend on a lot of different factors. So it can. Sometimes people want to use it to itemize taxes, but maybe they don't have enough deductions. You just... Case by case, but it's a good question to ask. All right, speaking of questions, we have more. Tom, this one goes to you, and it's from Alice in Pasco. And Alice asks, I'm now 59, and I plan on working until I'm 66. Should I roll over my 401k while I'm still working? Well, you know, I love that, Alice, that you're asking this question now, because you're still working, and you're looking at retiring here in a few years. And the answer is, let's sit down and talk about that, because in certain situations, you are definitely better off because your options are greater. A lot of times within a 401k, you have a limited selection of options, and that's okay when you're younger. As you start getting into retirement, it becomes more important to start positioning those assets in different places and maybe having some more options than you had before. And so being able to do that over the next several years until you're ready to retirement is a really great way to step into retirement and be ready to go. I don't know how many times I've had that conversations with clients where I've said, the good news is today's your first day of retirement. The even better news is we planned for this 3, 4, 5 years ago. Yeah. So this is just an easy transition. You knew what was coming, and it was easy to walk away and start this new phase of your life. I bet you can have a lot of confidence when you do that kind of planning. Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. It makes it much more celebratory. I bet. You know, you can kind of tamp down some of that anxiety, hopefully, and look forward to what's to come. And we've talked about the questions because they come up. You know, you think, oh, like, I know all this. I'm going to come meet with Matt and Tom or somebody, one of our team, and you think you got these things done. You know what? A year later, you got new questions. Because you got the big ones out of the way. Now you're starting to think about some of the others. So planning in advance is so important. Yeah, it really is. And Tom, I want to ask you this next question that comes in from Marcy, and Marcy is in Richland. She says, my husband and I are fairly conservative with our money. We've been concerned about inflation over the past few years. Could there be a way to keep our money growing without taking on too much risk? Absolutely. And I think we've all been worried about inflation the last couple of years. We've been reminded what inflation really was. For so many years we didn't have it. And so now we get to deal with it. And again, it comes back to this planning idea.
there is some money that definitely is going to fall in that conservative bucket. But if you're well organized, you still have room for some risk out there on the money you're not going to spend for more than 20 years. But it's just a matter of getting organized around that and being comfortable with it. I love that she's thinking about being conservative, because really when you leave work, you have all the money you're ever going to have for the rest of your life. And you have to think about it differently. And not in a panic way, but in let's get organized and let's make sure that we are in good shape.
Yeah, that's well said, especially about inflation. I remember it being called the silent killer of retirement. It's not so silent anymore.
Not so silent anymore. There was someone before this came out that said, anybody under 30 had no idea what inflation really was. I think they're learning now.
Yeah, you just have to go to the grocery store or pump some gas.
Yes.
Right? All right, Matt, we have a question for you. This one comes in from Jose. Jose is in Kent, and he says, how much money can you inherit without paying inheritance tax?
Oh, okay. So there's direct answers to that in terms of state limits and federal limits. It's around 2 million or so for the state of Washington. But I hesitate to go into much more specifics than that because it depends on exactly what you're inheriting. Depends on when it's happening, and there's taxes that the estate pays before the money even gets to you, but then there's taxes that you pay once you get the money, so it feels like some double taxation there. I would say I would rather take that question even before it even happens and say, let's make a plan now so that before you even get this, you know what it's going to look like, you know what you're going to do with it, what can we do? I assume this money's coming from Jose's parents. What can Jose's parents do now to minimize that?
So Jose's thinking along the same lines, because it sounds like, from what you said, everybody gets a tax. Everybody gets, the estate and the personal. Okay, so going back just a couple steps to see, hey, could we begin to be a little smarter about this as a first step?
Yeah, it's not just as simple as saying, oh, the state limit is this and the inheritance is here. I'm not going to pay any taxes. Not that simple at all.
Okay, and that's what it takes really, is sitting down with someone who looks at this day in and day out and is familiar, because boy, retirement, a modern retirement, it really does need to be gone through with its fine-tooth comb. Tom and Matt, we appreciate your time as always. I always learn so much. I know our viewers do as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And if you want to know ways to help generate lifetime income, maybe reduce your tax bill like Jose does, and also maintain your lifestyle in retirement, which is so important to so many people, we encourage you, reach out now. Work with the team at the Retirement Solution to begin planning your ideal retirement. For Tom Black and Matt Perrone, we'll see you next week.